If you have topics you would like to have us discuss on the Aging Well podcast, please click on the links in the episode description to send us a text or record your message or comments. We'd love to hear from you and how we can help you age well. If you benefit from the Aging Well podcast and would like to support the content financially, please click on the Support the Show link or support our affiliates and advertisers. Welcome to the Aging Well podcast. I'm Jeff Armstrong here with Corbin Bruton. In this and the episodes that follow, we will share candid discussions on aging and hear from the experts. We are here to inform and encourage as we experience, aging. In this episode, we explore the relationship between exercise timing and optimal aging. We dive into the science behind when to exercise for maximum health benefits, the impact of exercise timing on circadian rhythms, and offer practical insights to help you age well.
Dr. Armstrong, you try to exercise multiple times a day. When is the best time to exercise?
The best time to exercise ultimately depends on your personal schedule, preferences, and physiological rhythms. However, there are some general considerations. Exercising in the morning can jumpstart your metabolism and give you energy for the day ahead. It can also establish a consistent routine and may lead to better adherence with your exercise program. Additionally, morning workouts can enhance mood and focus throughout the day. Now, some research has shown that strength and endurance peak in the afternoon or evening, making these good times to work out.
Why is that?
Why are we stronger in the afternoon or early evening?
Yes.
Well, primarily, we are more prepared physiologically. We have nourishment in our systems, our muscles are warmed, and we are just more ready to exercise. Afternoon and evening exercise can also serve as a stress reliever after a long day and help you unwind before bedtime. Remember, though, that exercising too close to bedtime may interfere with sleep quality for some individuals.
So why do you exercise in the morning? You usually are up around 4:30, aren't you?
Frankly, if I didn't exercise first thing, I probably wouldn't. If I miss a morning workout, there's less chance that I will make it up. My recommendation to anyone looking to start exercising is to choose a time that best fits your daily schedule and commitments. Consistency is key. So pick a time when you are most likely to stick to an exercise routine. When do you exercise?
Well, I try to do my lifting around in the morning because I don't know. I recall from one of your classes, but after we had a little discussion after last episode's podcast, it might not have been one of your classes, but I recall that lifting in the morning is the best option because it spikes your testosterone throughout the day, it boosts your metabolism, and then do more of like a low impact cardio session in the afternoon right around 2:30 is quote unquote ideal because you know how we get that, I'm getting sleepy feeling. Well, if you add a little bit of that cardio into it, it kind of boosts your energy levels back up. But now after doing this podcast and after diving into more literature, I have no idea where I heard that information from. I don't even know if that's relevant into today's.
It wasn't from me. I can guarantee that because I very likely talked about my need to exercise in the morning because of scheduling and things like that. And again, the same thing for me. If I don't do it in the morning, I miss a window of opportunity that may not come back later in the afternoon. And so my afternoons are not available to lift in the best time, but lifting in the morning, I'm getting something out of it rather than nothing out of it. And so the difference between optimal and suboptimal for me is relatively small. But I'm pretty certain I didn't present that because it's not in the literature, because it is kind of odd in the literature that it is really in the times of days that are really the least opportune for us to be exercising. I mean, most of us can't just hop out of work in the middle of the day, go to the gym for a couple hours, get a good workout in, and then go back to work. or you get home from work and go to the gym, you're likely to destroy your marriage or your relationships. But or if you have kids, just forget about it. So I really look at trying to figure out what's going to be the best day, what time of day relative to your schedule and your commitments, and be consistent with that.
Well, I notice on the weekends when I actually have the opportunity to work out right around 9:30, that's like a peak 9:30 a.m. That's a peak time for me to work out. I feel like my strength is significantly better. I feel like my endurance is, and I can go a lot more. So yeah, I have no idea where I heard, I could have swore I learned it, um, in one of my college courses, but
You may have, but it wasn't mine.
well, would you advise our listeners to pay attention to how they feel at different times of the day? Because they may find that they have more energy and motivation at certain times.
Absolutely. In addition, I would consider factors like meal timing and how your body responds to exercise after eating.
So you pretty much exercise in a fasted state.
I do. I will usually drink a mix of creatine, branched chain amino acids, and liquid IV and water while I work out. I'll consume a whey protein and fruit smoothie post workout.
Would you suggest trying to work out at a different time of day to see if that works better for you?
Yes and no. Sometimes you got to exercise when your schedule permits, whether you like it or not.
You don't like lifting weights at 4:30 a.m.?
You got to do what you got to do. Ultimately, the best time to exercise is the time that allows you to be consistent and enjoy your workouts as much as workouts should be enjoyed while fitting into your lifestyle.
So why do many people experience a peak in strength and physical performance in the late afternoon or early evenings?
This is attributed to several factors. Body temperature tends to rise throughout the day, reaching its peak in the late afternoon or early evening. So warmer muscles are more flexible and efficient, which can contribute to improved strength and performance. As the day progresses, neuromuscular coordination tends to improve, leading to better motor recruitment and coordination during physical activity. Hormone levels such as testosterone, cortisol, and adrenaline can influence strength and performance. And as you mentioned, testosterone levels typically peak in the morning, but they can remain elevated throughout the day, contributing to increased strength and muscle mass. Also, muscles may be more prepared and primed for activity later in the day after being awake and moving for several hours. Some people may perform better in the morning and at other times of the day based on their personal preferences, habits, and biological rhythms. Additionally, factors such as nutrition, sleep quality, and overall health can also impact strength and physical performance.
So you mentioned biological rhythms. There was a piece published recently by NPR titled, "Your Muscles Keep Time To: How Circadian Rhythms Affect Your Workout and Your Health."
So, are you saying that circadian rhythms are important for aging well?
Maybe. Let's talk about the article.
So, the article suggests that, quote, the last decade has brought a wave of new research on the interplay between exercise timing and circadian rhythms. The patterns in our physiology and behavior can fluctuate over the 24-hour cycle, end quote. What does the science say?
Well, the authors summarized 4 findings from the latest science. Exercise can help keep your body's circadian rhythm in sync. Your muscles follow their clocks and timing affects performance. You may be able to shift your muscles' circadian rhythms to your preferred workout time, and exercise timing could hold secrets for our health.
So, our exercise timing can have an impact on aging well.
Maybe so.
Exercise can help keep your body's circadian rhythms in sync. Rhythms, that's plural. What do they mean?
Well, the author states that the circadian rhythms involve more than just the central clock in the brain because every organ and tissue has its own molecular timekeeper, what scientists called a peripheral clock.
So, problems arise when these clocks get misaligned.
This is referred to as the circadian misalignment.
I suspect that researching the idea that exercise can realign these peripheral clocks can be tricky. But it makes logical sense that lifestyle consistency, including exercise, can be effective.
So you're saying that being consistent when we exercise and simply being consistent in our exercise habit is more important than when we exercise.
It would make sense. Now, the author refers to a study in the Journal of Biological Rhythms by Martin and Esser titled Time for Exercise, Exercise and its Influence on the Skeletal Muscle Clock. Karen Esser suggests that muscle clocks are key in guiding when the cell takes a break to rest and repair, including storing up energy and when to get primed for activity. This suggests that the mitochondria, glucose and fat metabolism, and liver and pancreatic function are all tied to our biological rhythms and muscle activity.
So exercise can override the brain's clock?
The literature might suggest so. It is possible that the phase of the clock may be trainable.
So athletes should train for the time when they plan to compete. But what about those of us that just want to age well?
I don't think it would be wrong to make the leap to saying that training at a consistent time is beneficial to one's overall health. Exercise at about the same time to keep our biological clocks in tune. The literature seems to be a bit all over the place regarding when is the best time for specific health conditions. But I would go out on a limb and say that regular, consistent exercise can minimize circadian disruption and prevent or minimize the risk of many health conditions.
No doubt, we are going to see disruption to our exercise and sleep cycles, be it from travel or just life getting in the way of our schedules. What can we do to resync our biological rhythms and keep them in sync?
Keeping your biological clock and circadian rhythm synchronized is essential for overall health and well-being. We have talked about this on the podcast quite a few times, and recently we interviewed Dr. Farrow about tracking heart rate variability. We talk often about sleep hygiene. I think it is very much a matter of routine. I'll say this again, go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on the weekends. Consistency helps regulate your body's internal clock and reinforces your circadian rhythm. Exposure to natural light, especially in the morning, helps regulate your circadian rhythm. Spend time outdoors during the day, open curtains or blinds to let sunlight in, and consider using a light therapy box if you have limited access to natural light. Reduce exposure to artificial light, particularly blue light emitted from electronic devices like smartphones, tablets, and computers in the evening. Blue light can disrupt melatonin production and interfere with your sleep-wake cycle. Consider using blue light filters on electronic devices or wearing blue light blocking glasses in the evening. Establish a calming bedtime routine to signal your body that it's time to wind down and prepare for sleep. This should include activities like reading, taking a warm bath, participating in relaxation techniques such as deep breathing or meditation, or listening to soothing music. Limit consumption of caffeine and other stimulants in hours leading up to bedtime, as they can interfere with your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. Engage in regular physical activity and exercise, but try and avoid vigorous exercise close to bedtime, as it can stimulate your body and make it difficult to relax and fall asleep. Create a sleep-friendly environment that is cool, dark, and quiet. Use earplugs, white noise machines, or sleep masks if necessary to block out disruptive sounds and light. I'm a napper, but if you take a nap during the day, keep them short, about 20 to 30 minutes, and avoid napping too close to bedtime, as it can interfere with your ability to fall asleep at night. Be mindful of your eating habits, particularly in the evening. Avoid heavy meals, spicy foods, and excessive alcohol consumption close to bedtime, as they can disrupt sleep. And if you're experiencing persistent sleep problems or disruptions in your circadian rhythm, despite making lifestyle changes, consider consulting a healthcare professional or sleep specialist for further evaluation and guidance. What habits have you incorporated to help maintain your biological rhythm?
To be honest, I'm actually pretty bad at this. It's funny that we're bringing this up though, because I've been thinking about this the last few days, last few weeks actually, how, man, I feel that I'm constantly tired all the time. And maybe I'm just not getting a well rested amount of sleep. And so it's only been a couple days, but I'm trying to limit the amount of blue light exposure a few hours to bed. So whether it's on my phone, I'll try and switch it to the little yellow light filter that they have in the evenings. And then instead of maybe watching TV, I'll try and read something to try and unwind my mind that way. I've noticed that when I do read items, it kind of makes my brain a little bit more activated, though, than just kind of unwinding watching a TV show mindlessly. My brain starts thinking, and I'm like, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? And so I'm still kind of, but I've noticed that. I've noticed with a lot of individuals, especially in my generation versus your generation. I feel like your generation, which are also my parents' generation, everyone's more. You guys have a lot more energy than my generation does, and
Because we're more fit. We're aging well.
yeah, and it's just go, 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 go. And I feel like me and a bunch of my friends around my same age, I feel like we're tired all the time. And I don't quite understand why. I don't know if we're just not getting well rested sleep or if we have some undiagnosed sleep apnea or
You can't have a whole generation of sleep.
yeah, it could
apnea.
be. I mean, it could be a number of factors. Like you said, you mentioned not just blue light, but you've also mentioned food. Like what we put into our bodies is going to affect that circadian rhythm, and especially after our interview with Dr. Farrow, that was so eye opening when he said the amount of stress a slice of pizza can put on your body, and I was like, "What? That's crazy."
I discussed my epigenetics test with True Diagnostic co-founder Hannah Wendt in episode 162. Epigenetic testing measures baseline and changes in your pace of aging, giving you the power to steer your anti-aging or health and wellness journey in the right direction. I learned that I am aging well. Click on the affiliate link in the episode description, use the promo code AGEWELL, and receive a 12% discount on your epigenetics test and monitor your pace of aging.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to. I mean, this is going to air kind of well after my birth date, but I have a birthday coming up in a few days, and I'm hoping that I kind of know because don't tell anybody, but you can tell on Amazon what people have bought you. But I know I'm getting a Garmin heart
Nice.
tracker, so my goal is to use that to monitor my stress levels throughout the day and hopefully start to look at those indicators that might be, what's elevating my stress. And I know some of it. It's like as soon as I get in the car in the morning, I could be as stress-free after journaling in the morning. I get behind the wheel of the car, drive the first roundabout here in West Lynn, and I'm going to be upset. And so, what are those things that are triggering the stress? What can I do in the moment to kind of back off of that stress, to relax a little bit? And then in the evenings in particular, am I prepping myself properly to unwind and go to bed at a relatively reduced stress level? And hopefully by tracking that, I think it's going to help me to kind of figure out what is affecting my circadian rhythms. And, a good indicator of your circadian rhythms is going to be your parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system responses. And so that heart rate variability is going to be very effective for that. I know I've talked in the past that I'm not a big proponent of really heart rate variability tracking for athletic performance because as an athlete, you got to train when you got to train and you got to perform when you got to perform. And so you don't necessarily have the option of not training or changing your training program. And I know that many, many will disagree with me on that, but you can't necessarily change your exercise programming other than maybe a bigger picture programming change in response to that heart rate variability. So if I wake up in the morning and I tend to not sleep too well the night before, that's not an excuse for me not to get the workout in. But what I have to do is look back, okay, well, what caused me not to get that sleep so that we could correct that in the long term? And I think that's what we're talking about with aging well, is getting into those habits that are going to give us the best quality sleep on a regular basis, and know that we're going to have periods where we're going to have disrupted sleep or whatever it might be. And, you mentioned kind of the generational differences. I think my generation is starting to catch up a little bit with the overuse of electronic devices, but your generation definitely, and certainly even kind of the generation behind that, is much more likely to see sleep disrupted because of electronics use. They're constantly on their phone. They're on their computers. They're watching TV, playing video games. And video games, I think, especially right before bed for a teenager, what the heck is that going to do to your sleep? It's got to affect your dreams, your thought patterns through your trying to rest, and it's going to have a negative impact on overall sleep patterns. And so, if we really want good quality sleep, we have to look at what is going to give us the best possible sleep. And so, reading a book, but read something, don't read Stephen King before going to bed. I mean, love Stephen King books, and I'm not recommending Stephen King books, but reading those right before bed, or some of these, really scary books, or even murder mysteries or any of that kind of stuff right before bed, is probably not the best thing for sleep. Don't watch a program about, unsolved murders right before going to bed, because your brain is going to be on edge. You have basically stimulated your parasympathetic or your sympathetic nervous system in a fight or flight response right before going to bed, when we want to be the most parasympathetic as possible.
That's funny you bring that up. I know like dozens of people that they'll watch either true crimes, and it's like they're watching lullabies, and they'll watch all these murder mysteries or documentaries, and you can hear it and it's broadcasting some pretty graphic details. And then you just will hear the people end up snoring and how they're falling asleep. And I've never understood that. But like I said, I know dozens of people that just for whatever reason puts them to sleep. And I have no idea why, because I did it one time. I watched a documentary on world's worst roommates and how one of them ended up murdering the other roommate. And I couldn't sleep after that. It was terrifying. It was awful.
Okay, you just put the song Sandman in my head.
Yeah.
Sleep with one eye open. But, I think we have to consider, what quality sleep are we getting? Because as we learned, and especially, kind of talking with the Kleonskis in one of the earlier episodes, we might think we're sleeping, but we don't know the quality of the sleep that we're actually getting. And you talk about sleep apnea, or even just kind of the rhythms of sleep. Are we hitting all of the stages of restfulness that we need to be hitting and going through those cycles? And we can disrupt those. We may have our eyes closed, and snoring is not necessarily an indicator of quality sleep. In fact, it might even be an indicator of poor quality sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still wouldn't recommend it. Even say, I'm able to go to sleep so much easier after watching, a murder mystery. Well, okay, but how well are you sleeping? What are you thinking about in your sleep? I mean, I can tell my dream patterns change relative to things that might be going on, and it's weird, some of the dreams that I have, but I can almost, I know what my brain's trying to process through this bizarre dream that I'm having. And so our brains are working to sort through all that information as we are sleeping. And we want to do things that are going to be the most restful. Don't watch the news. I think we've talked about this before. Don't watch the news, period, because it's so hyped up and it's intended to get you all riled up, whether you watch, right side or left side of the news program. It's horrible anymore. Stay off of social media. Right before bedtime is not the best time to check your Instagram or your Facebook, and I didn't get any likes on my opinions and everybody hates me, and then you're going to bed. Do things that are going to relax you. So what type of reading relaxes you? Whether it be maybe poetry or scripture, or something that brings your mind to a positive point. I need to get back to doing it. My journey, when I was single, it was a lot easier. Before I had kids and before I have the schedule I have now, It was a lot easier to get up in the morning and I journal. That's where I usually set goals for the day and look forward. And then at the end of the day, look backward. And I'd always try and end the day with a positive quote that came up from my reading, or I might even just kind of Google something. I really love like Orison Swett Marden. He's the creator of Success Magazine, or James Allen. I love their writings because they're very positive and affirming. And so reading something like that prior to bed puts me in the right mood to be kind of thinking positive things going into the next day.
Oh, well, I mean, those are great techniques. Ironically, a couple of days ago, I literally read an article on the importance on when we go to bed, the very last thing that we do prior to going to bed, and that journaling or reading either poetry or scripture is ideal. But just like you had mentioned earlier about what does playing video games do right before bed, it actually in that study, it stated that video games or computers or cell phones, it overstimulates the brain so much, and constantly staring at that blue light on that screen with all of the different pixelations, you're not only throwing off your circadian rhythm, but you're actually reprogramming your brain. And as I was reading it, I was like, what do they mean by that? And basically they said, a prime example of reprogramming your brain of how you can see it is after you've shut the video game off or whatever, social media or whatever it is, whatever electronic, and you close your eyes and you can still see either the images or the pixelation. That's your brain reprogramming that. So yeah, I think the advice that you're given is really good. If you're going to watch something, don't watch a scary movie. Watch something more peaceful or a comedy or tranquil. Ideally, read scripture, poetry, travel thing, getting that good, peaceful mindset. So I think that's stellar advice that you're giving.
And we talked about the foods that we eat in the evening making a difference. I'd also asked Dr. Farrow about a question that one of my athletes had about, well, he didn't have a question. He just was telling me that he would take a cold shower in the evening. And I don't think that's the best time. I would take it first thing in the morning where you kind of stimulate and get everything kind of kicking off in the morning. But I wasn't sure because to me, I also think of like the mammalian dive reflex that, when you submerge the face in cold water, it lowers the heart rhythm and kind of slows the body's metabolism down a little bit. And I thought that might be, might be a good idea. But remember, Dr. Farrow said that what it's actually doing is triggering your body to have to work to warm itself up. And so you're kind of increasing this activity in order to kind of warm the body through the night. And so it may not be the best time. A good warm shower, warm bath, or something like that is going to be a much better approach right before bedtime. So if you're going to have to shower before bedtime, which I never really understood doing that because, I'm just going to be laying in the bed that I've been laying in for days. And I feel like I'm laying in dirt. What's the point in sleeping, sleeping after showering? So shower first thing in the morning. But if that's what you got to do, particularly people that work at night or something like that, a good warm shower might help to kind of soothe the body, get the body relaxed. Glass of warm milk. We've always kind of heard that kind of triggering some of the tryptophan to help get us to sleep.
Yeah, I've never understood that.
The warm milk?
Yeah. I've always heard it, but I've never. Yeah. I've always heard it, but I've never. Yeah. Have you ever had warm milk?
No. Well, no, it's not that great. Not unless it has chocolate in it. Then you want it to be hotter, but that's not my thing. So, I don't have anything that I really consume right before bedtime that helps me sleep. I have found that caffeine doesn't really affect my sleep. At least I don't think it does. But I am trying to not consume caffeine too much at night. Light bothers me. I do need to kind of close the blinds and do some of that kind of stuff. Although it doesn't bother me too much because I close my eyes, right? So I'm closing my eyes so but the light still kind of gets through your eyelids a little bit. Any other habits that you do?
Well, you mentioned eating too late can really throw things off. And I can honestly say, Aaron and I, we're super, super busy. There are times during the week, like we'll get off work and then we'll go we'll run another event with each other and whatever the case. And sometimes we're not getting home till 10:30 or 11 and we haven't eaten since noon. So we'll just swing by and grab something, or we'll make something real quick when we get home. And it's so funny. I don't know. I used to be able to eat super late and wake up and feel great. And now if I eat way too late, I almost feel hungover. It's a weird concept. But when Dr. Farrow had mentioned the dangers of eating too late and throwing off your whole stress levels, I was like, yeah, no, that checks out.
And I think that's where meal planning comes into play a little bit more. When we know our schedule and we got these busy schedules, we have to kind of adjust maybe what we're eating. And maybe in your case, rather than eating more on the fly, having a plan in mind. You're not going to be getting home. Maybe it's taking a couple, high protein shakes along with you and downing those after the event or in the car driving home, or maybe even if you can during the event. And then that way you're having a bit more regularity in terms of your diet. Something like a whey protein, or probably in that case, casein protein might even be a little bit more effective if you can tolerate casein protein. I don't like the texture of it, but that, planning like that may actually, it's going to help you control your calories a little bit better, because for many of us, you're hungry, you haven't eaten for a while, and you don't have a plan in mind. What are you going to do? You go and you're hungry, you're going to order, something off the menu, and then you end up eating all of it, maybe far too many calories and those types of things. And so planning for our nutritional habits, again, same thing. The more we can be regimented in terms of our eating habits, sleeping habits, exercise habits, all of that is going to have a more positive effect on controlling our circadian rhythms.
So ultimately, it's essential to listen to our bodies and pay attention to when we feel most energized and capable during physical activities. Experiment with different workout times can help you identify when you perform best and optimize your training schedule accordingly. Make sure you're managing your stress, diet, and sleep. Be consistent and consider the lifestyle factors and training habits that can help you to age well.
Age well.
Thank you for listening. I hope you benefited from today's podcast. And until next time, keep aging well.